Yesterday I wanted to relax and watch a rom-com. One of those awesome movies that makes us girls love life, dance, and revitalize you by making you believe once again in the power of love. But then I decided I was going to watch Something Borrowed instead. This movie has already started quite a conversation on the internet, and not for a good reason. It manages to upset even the most die-hard fans of rom-coms. And in spite of the incredible talent and charm at work here, this plot wasn't salvageable. So I watched Something Borrowed and I have some opinions about it, but first let's have a recap of the plot. The movie starts with Rachel arriving at a surprise birthday party she already knew about and trying to act surprised. Once at the party, she's surprised by her best friend Darcy, in which we already noticed some sort of power play from the start. And if you think Darcy threw this party for herself and not for Rachel, you're not the only one. And as the plot develops, we'll see that this is not an isolated incident. While Rachel changes in the women's bathroom, Ethan, her childhood best friend, barges in hiding from Claire, a woman he slept with who's now obsessed with him. During the party, we learn that Rachel is not only a lifelong best friend of Darcy and Ethan, but she also knows Dex, who's not only Darcy's fiancé, but also an old friend from law school and with whom she has a weird chemistry from the start. Oh, there's also this guy, doesn't matter. Darcy gets super drunk at the party and Dex takes her home. The party ends and Rachel almost leaves with Ethan, until Dex gets back to the bar to find the purse that Darcy left. Then he and Rachel head to another bar where she confesses to Dex that she liked him back in law school, believing he already knew. This confession is something that visibly shakes them both.
And now I remember why I had such a crush on you in law school.
No, you didn't.
Of course I did. Oh, come on, you knew.
They get into a cab after the uncomfortable moment, and then it doesn't stay that comfortable anymore. At least not for them. The next day, Rachel is woken up by a call from Darcy, who is worried because Dex didn't get home the night before.
Oh my god! Wait, don't be naked!
Ma'am, what's up with the prudishness? He was already inside you. Dex bolts as fast as he can. This movie has a bunch of flashbacks that give you hints about their history. Not only Dex and Rachel's, but also Darcy and Rachel's. While she's with Darcy doing the fitting for the wedding dress, Rachel has flashbacks of the good times she shared with Dex in law school. Right next to one where Rachel meets Dex and Darcy crashes the meeting and almost immediately asks Dex out. Something Rachel says nothing about. Darcy asks Rachel to go to the Hamptons with her and Dex, and also invites everyone's favorite character to play matchmaker with Rachel.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Look who it is. This guy.
To avoid being alone with Marcus, Rachel invites Ethan. What promises to be a good weekend ends up being 2 days of Rachel staring awkwardly at Darcy and Dex, and this girl throwing herself awkwardly at Jim Halpert. After hearing a night of loud sex courtesy of Darcy, Rachel decides to head back to the city. Dex takes her to the jitney and Rachel asks him why they slept together, until she cuts him off and says everything that happened that night was a big mistake. Later, Rachel meets Darcy for dinner and, surprise, Dex is there again. They think Darcy already knows about them, but nope. Darcy just asks Rachel to go see a band for the wedding and of course she finds Dex there. During this event, Dex confesses to Rachel that he's always been in love with her. Rachel asks him to stop and then leaves, but Dex goes after her. They kiss again and she admits she feels the same way. Then he asks her to come to the Hamptons the following weekend, which only creates more uncomfortable moments between them, because Darcy and everyone else will also be there. While they finally get a moment alone, we learn one of the reasons Dex is still going through with the wedding. His mom's depression made him do everything he could to keep her happy, and the wedding is part of that. That means Rachel has to constantly watch him with Darcy and even tries, and fails miserably, to make Dex jealous.
Hey, get in there. Are you alright?
Yeah, no, I just think I pulled something. Your vagina? No, I didn't pull my vagina!
Back in the city, Dex sends Rachel flowers and asks her to spend the 4th of July weekend with him. While she considers his proposal, Ethan shows up at her office and asks who the flowers are from. Rachel confesses to him about the affair with Dex, but Ethan is really supportive of it, telling her she should spend the weekend with Dex because he's not married yet and because good people do bad things sometimes. While shopping, Rachel helps Darcy write her vows, using her own feelings for Dex to do it.
He makes you the person you want to be instead of the person you are.
Meanwhile, Darcy completely ignores her. After this, Rachel decides to spend the weekend with Dex to see what happens between them. They spend the day walking around the city, talking about the past, about how much they like each other, and how Rachel never thought someone like Dex would actually like her. And well, they sleep together again. The next day, they play pretend dating, which is exactly as sad and pathetic as you'd imagine.
Imagine I'm holding your hand right now.
Okay. Yeah, imagine we're dating. But we're not, because I'm getting married and you're my set piece. At this point, they run into Dex's parents and end up having lunch together. Dex's dad notices what's going on and tells Dex to stop seeing Rachel. This man is the only sensible person in this entire movie, but here he's being portrayed as the villain. Afterwards, Rachel and Dex go back home, and Dex, already anxious about his dad's words, drops Rachel off, telling her he meant every word he said during the weekend. Rachel then talks it over with Ethan, who actually tells her what she and anyone in her position needs to hear.
He's stringing you along, and the worst part is you're just letting him. How long are you gonna let this happen, Rachel? This wedding day? His first anniversary?
Then he drops the news that he's moving to London. Later, Rachel runs into Marcus, who tells her that Dex's dad bought a house for Dex and Darcy, which of course upsets Rachel. After her bachelorette party, Darcy stays at Rachel's house. Dex calls Rachel, trying to come over, but when Darcy asks who is it, Rachel says it's Ethan, and Darcy assumes that Ethan and Rachel are together. During the sleepover, Darcy tells Rachel how important she is in her life. The next day, Darcy gets cold feet about marrying Dex and asks Rachel for advice. And Rachel, knowing everything that has happened and being the biggest reason why Darcy shouldn't marry Dex, still encourages to marry him. Then Darcy confesses that she cheated on Dex during the 4th of July weekend with Marcus. After that, Rachel tells Ethan, and Ethan tells her to tell Dex and finally have a chance with him, once again emphasizing that Darcy wouldn't think twice if the roles were reversed. Once in the Hamptons, once again, Darcy tells everyone that Ethan and Rachel are sleeping together, which makes Dex angry. Ethan then tries to reveal what's actually happening between Rachel and Dex, but before he can, Rachel hits him with a racket. Ethan confronts her one last time, urging her to come clean. Later that night, Rachel confronts Dex about his confusion and leaves the bar, which is good, until she has one more flashback about the night Darcy met Dex and how she left them both alone. That same night, Dex went after Rachel and asked if she was okay with them dating, and she said everything was fine. That memory makes Rachel run back to Dex and ask him to cancel the wedding. But he tells her he can't, because if there's anyone more cowardly than Rachel in this movie, it's definitely Dex. After a sad girl montage, Rachel decides to visit Ethan in London. She gets a call from Darcy, who asks her to come back to help her with the wedding preparations, and Rachel finally says no. While in London, Ethan confesses to Rachel that he's always been in love with her, but she rejects him because she's always been in love with Dex. She comes back to New York and finds Dex waiting for her at her door. He tells her he has cancelled the wedding and thanks her for giving him the courage to do it. And after they sort of reconcile, Darcy visits Rachel to give her her side of the story. She reveals that not only did she sleep with Marcus, but she's also pregnant with his baby. Then she leaves, and here comes my favorite part of the movie. When you think everything is safe and alright and Rachel is gonna have her happy ending, Darcy comes back to Rachel's apartment and all hell breaks loose.
Is that Dex's jacket? Where is he? It's Rachel! How could you do this to me? No, I never wanted to hurt you.
2 months later, Darcy and Rachel run into each other by accident and have a small conversation. Something that should have been a heartwarming moment just becomes another reason to hate Darcy. Then Rachel meets Dex and they walk into the sunset. And look, they can finally hold hands in public. How cute. I bet a lot of people found them cute too, right? Right? In spite of a sequel being hinted by the end of the movie, Somethin Borrowed did poorly with both critics and at the box office, barely recovering its costs domestically and getting panned by reviewers. This is my favorite comment, by the way. The audience wasn't very kind to it either, and with good reason. This is a genre of media I'd like to call Poor Little Me, the movie. It's one of those stories where you're supposed to feel bad for the main character. Usually a woman with poor boundaries who never speaks for herself. And somehow that makes her wrongdoings feel like karmic retribution for everything life has unfairly taken away from her. In last week's video, I spoke about Rory and Dean's affair in Gilmore Girls, and why it was impactful for both the plot and the characters' development. Beyond the mistake they made, there was a story built around it that made the whole situation more layered and meaningful for each one of them. There are consequences that they all faced that match the mistake they made and clear detractors of what happened. Somethin Borrowed, on the other hand, never makes us question Rachel's decision, because the world built around her sympathizes with her and actively encourages her to betray Darcy. My main critique of this movie isn't about Dex and Rachel's cheating, but about how poorly the story builds its case. If the plot wants us to like Rachel, it should give us reasons beyond she's good and weak. For some reason, the plot justifies the harm she causes to the people around her, with a kind of logic that goes, everybody took everything away from me, so now I'm going to do what I want and no one can say anything, because I deserve to be excused for this. And while that may not be Rachel's mindset, it definitely seems to be the mindset of the writers behind her. Rachel is basically a blank canvas for the audience to project onto, and her qualities only stand out when contrasted with Darcy, who we're clearly supposed to dislike. Because Rachel isn't just smart, nice, and selfless, she's smarter, nicer, and more selfless than Darcy. Meanwhile, Darcy embodies none of these qualities and instead acts as their direct opposite. Darcy is set up to be the obvious villain, a bad friend who takes what she wants when she wants, isn't too smart or attentive, and not only robbed Rachel of a happy ending with Dex, but also cheated on Dex weeks before their wedding. And yes, that's one of those moments where you may say, well, it's not fine, but it's kind of fair because Dex cheated on her too. And that's fine. But this is extended to the framing the movie wants the audience to adapt to. In the logic of the story, Darcy's cheating is unacceptable because she did it out of lust and brushed it off quickly. But Rachel's is forgivable because she did it out of love and has felt guilty about it the entire time. And I get the reasoning behind this choice, but it ignores the fact that both actions carry consequences. We do see those consequences briefly, but the script works overtime to reframe the whole situation. Instead of being a story about betrayal and broken boundaries, it becomes a story about love interrupted by minor inconveniences. And these reframes halted the growth and development of the people involved. Darcy, Rachel, Dex, and even Ethan, who everyone seems to love. And really none of them actually grew. Rachel ends the movie the same way she started it, as Mrs. Goody Two-Shoes. She may have become aware of her shortcomings in how she was blaming Darcy for taking everything she wanted, but then still decides to show up for Darcy, and not in the way it was needed, but more in the way that serves Rachel's good girl persona, which doesn't make any sense at all. You're going to quietly support your best friend as she marries the guy you've always been in love with, pretending to be a good friend for both while you're slowly dying on the inside? How is this showing actual growth? How is this not actually reverting back to the person who's always giving everything to Darcy? It's because what was important to Rachel wasn't her friendship with Darcy, nor doing the right thing for her. What was important for her was keeping her own image as a good person. The one who would have never done what she evidently did and erasing every trace of her betrayal by putting a smile on her face while Darcy continues her life. And that's exactly why the blow up at the end is so cathartic. When Rachel thought everything was finally falling into place for her, she had no reason to come clean to Darcy. That proves her guilt was never about remorse. It was only about Darcy finding out. So when Darcy finally confronts her and yells at her saying how much she hated her, it was so satisfying and well deserved because Rachel had no further excuses to hide behind. And this is the only moment in the movie that the audience is given some sense of balance between these people. This whole movie shows us that Rachel prefers to preserve the fake sense of peace her silence creates instead of growing up and coming clean about what she's done. And that's precisely why people dislike her so much, and by extension, this movie. It's built around the idea that we should like someone whose actions are awful as long as they are suffering from main character syndrome. Darcy, meanwhile, was just being Darcy. If any development was meant for her, it was clearly being saved for a second movie. In this one, she existed only to justify Rachel's behavior and test her moral compass. Darcy is selfish, self-centered, attention-seeking, and constantly takes advantage of Rachel's meek nature. That should be enough for us to root for Rachel, right? Well, wrong, because the audience sees right through this poorly handled concept. She was less a person and more of a plot device. And to reduce the queen of rom-com, Kate Hudson's character, to that is just sad. Darcy could have been everything I described before, but she was also charming and fun to watch. I think she deserved more depth, enough to be fully fleshed out. At times, we do see glimpses into the real competitive nature of her relationship with Rachel. She lies to be the center of attention, and she does small but evident things to preserve the status quo in their relationship. We notice that she's upset with Rachel when she shows any sort of agency and achieves things she doesn't. And framing the script through that lens would have been more interesting than just making her a bad friend and nothing else. Just because Darcy is terrible doesn't mean we automatically want to be on Rachel's side. In fact, it makes us question the whole universe of the story and the motivations of these people. Just because one represents bad doesn't mean we will automatically side with the one who represents good. And even if you want to, it's almost impossible because in this movie, everybody sucks. A lot of people say Ethan is the best part of this movie, but I disagree. In this movie, John Krasinski was basically the male Judy Greer by playing Rachel's confidant. Ethan's role was mostly giving advice to Rachel, often encouraging her to continue the affair with Dex and breaking things off, because only then she will finally be assertive and get what she wants in life. Which, to be honest, is rather hypocritical coming from Ethan. He was Rachel's childhood friend and waited until she was having an affair with Dex to tell her he loved her? Nobody. No. He kept telling Rachel she was weak and a coward while also being weak and a coward himself. Not only with Rachel's situation, but also with Claire, the girl who never left him alone. Sure, she was annoying and insistent, but instead of just telling her, "Girl, I don't like you like that," he avoided her by pretending to be gay. How is he supposed to be a better partner for Rachel when he doesn't even follow his own advice? The only one who had any sort of growth was Dex, and even then it barely counts. He's been one of the most frustrating male leads I've ever seen in a rom-com in years. The only thing that actually pushed him to make a choice was Rachel asking him to. This guy was a glorified mannequin, and I'm not saying that just because the actor is hot. He went from being told what to do by Darcy and his dad to being told what to do by Rachel, and it doesn't get any sadder than that.
I just want to thank you for finally asking for what you wanted and for helping me to do the same.
Thank you for making me do it, Rachel. You're better at telling me what to do than my dad. Speaking of their relationship, you don't really feel any complicity between Dex and Rachel to support the years they've known each other. They just feel like two strangers who shared an underdeveloped crush. The chemistry is there, but it's very surface level. If you told me these two met the night before, I would believe it. Besides, I don't think a relationship between Dex and Rachel could actually work, because they are both too much alike. They're both passive, cowardly, and constantly pretending their inaction is what's best for everyone. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future one of them cheated on the other but kept it quiet because they were afraid of the fallout. And by the end of the movie, we're supposed to feel sad for the lost relationship between Darcy and Rachel. But it was kind of obvious that these two didn't like each other that much. So Rachel basically exchanged a half-assed friendship for a half-assed relationship, and nobody cares about it. As a whole, this movie is kind of a dud, which is sad because it has good talent attached to it. And they are all incredibly fun to watch. Unfortunately, the script is stale, the jokes are flat, and it's just very People watch this movie the same way they watch And Just Like That, and I cannot blame them for it. And Kirk was right. What could have been an interesting exploration of how complicated relationships, friendships, and marriage can be ended up as an uninspired movie that's constantly brought up for the opposite reason. An idealized concept playing out around characters who don't feel rooted in reality, offering a sense of escapism for the cowardly. And since this movie didn't teach me anything except how much audacity self-proclaimed good people can have, I'll end this video with a quote from a far better movie about a bride and her best friend. One that completely contradicts this movie's thesis and crushes any hint of poor little me-ism, and that is Bridesmaids.
Now you gotta stop feeling sorry for yourself, okay? Because I do not associate with people that blame the world for their problems, because you're your problem, Annie. And you're also your solution.
And well, that's all for today. If you have any opinions about this video and any other suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comment section. And once again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye bye!